boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. It's Jesse with the Common Nerd, bringing you pop culture and all things nerdy through a common sense lens. And you know, it's one of them situations where the box office in 2025 has just been absolutely rough. It's just one of them situations where there's just no doubt about it. This is one of the lowest box office we've seen, like literally outside of the government lockdown. So it's one of them situations where it should not surprise a lot of people that some franchises aren't doing very well. But as we've seen a lot of times over the past few years, whenever we see sequels to something that a lot of people loved, a lot of these creatives decide to get all up in their behind instead of, I don't know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of situation where you literally just repeat and do the same thing over again because it worked the last time. Well, of course, they always have to reinvent the wheel. They always have to rewrite. They always have to change things because, of course, I'm an artist and I get so bored doing the same thing over and over again. So I must try something new. And we've seen how well that ends up working out over the last few years. And M3GAN 2.0, boys and girls, is just the latest example of that. It decided to get away from its traditional horror genre that made the original such a success with so many horror fans out there, decided to go in a different direction, and needless to say, that did not go over very well with their fans in any way, shape, or form, and this movie is shaping up to be a disastrous dumpster fire and actually lose money, even with an extremely small budget comparatively to the rest of Hollywood, and that is absolutely insane, boys and girls, but that just shows you how bad things have actually gotten, because as you can see over here from the headline at cosmicbook.news, M3GAN 2.0, a massive misfire. Boy, a disastrous dumpster fire at the box office. I don't know if YouTube doesn't like that word or not. But anyway, we got the official numbers over here as well from the numbers.com. But boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, things are not going very well for M3GAN, and unlike so many horror franchises in the past who seems like they just could not quit making sequels, it looks like this may end up being indeed another dead franchise that will not go forward in any way, shape, or form what should traditionally be in the horror franchise. It seems like it's literally one of those situations where the last couple of weeks there have been box office disastrous dumpster fires that have led to the end of two franchises. First 28 years later, and now it's looking like M3GAN is coming to an end as well, at least based on these numbers. So we're going to check out this article. We're going to get all the juicy details and, of course, check out the official numbers for ourselves as well. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We just crossed 2K. We're sailing our way towards 2,100. I think we're at like 2039, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Did you go see M3GAN? What did you think of it? Did you enjoy the change of pace with the new take on the story and kind of going into a different slightly version versus a horror genre? Or did you think like a lot of the fans out there just wasn't your thing and simply did not show up to it based on the trailers alone? Let us know what you think about that in the comment section down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. Think about becoming a member, becoming part of the grease between our gears that keeps this machine running, because I could not do this without every single one of you. So please consider that down below. All right, from Matt McGloin over there at cosmicbook.news. Hold on to your vaginas. M3GAN 2.0. Matt is just legend, dude. Absolute legend. Absolute legend. M3GAN 2.0 is turning out to be a massive misfire for Universal Pictures as fans are avoiding it, and the box office is looking like a complete disaster. The first movie released in 2023 was a surprise hit. It opened to over $30 million and went on to bring in over $180 million. The budget was reported to only be $12 million. So that is a huge success. I mean, and that's one of the other things too. With these studios, that's been the biggest problem that a lot of them have faced, right? They have these insane budgets, $100 million, $150, $200 million, $300 million. And then sometimes when the tax reports come out later, we actually find out these things were $4, $5, and in some cases, i.e. Star Wars, $650 million after everything was said and done. So to have a budget that's much smaller on that one is always a wise choice. You can make a lot more movies for $12 million or $15 million and then hope one of them's a success and actually makes you a profit versus what a lot of the rest of the Hollywood is doing. But even with M3GAN 2.0, that simply was not enough to make this thing profitable. However, instead of doubling down for whatever reason, Matt says, I haven't seen the movie, neither have I. Some of my friends like Spartacus have seen him out there, and he has seen these movies. He goes and sees a lot of movies. He's seen it, and basically, yeah, it was meh. It was meh. However, instead of doubling down for whatever reason, Universal director Jared Johnston and the writers dumped the horror angle from M3GAN 2.0 and turned the sequel into a goofy sci-fi movie. Yay! Isn't that exactly what all the horror fans were showing up for? And I mean, seriously, horror fans are hardcore, dude. Like the actual like hardcore horror fans, right? Like I'm just your humble common nerd, right? I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none, but sometimes better than a master of one nerd, right? And so I'm just like, I like a little bit of everything. I like horror. Like I'm really big into like fantasy and sci-fi, but I love horror. I love all that stuff. But it was one of those things like I'm not a hardcore horror fan. I'm not going to go out there and see every new horror movie that comes out. There are a good portion of the fan base out there that will do that. And that's why low budget horror movies, if done properly, always end up making a profit. The problem was there was probably a bunch of horror fans that showed up this movie and went, what is this? Well, guess what? Once word of mouth gets around, that is not going to go over with the rest of the horror fan base, and they're simply not going to show up to your movie. Stick with what works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This isn't rocket science, but Hollywood just seemed to can't help themselves. Now can they? So what happened? I could tell when I watched the first trailer that M3GAN 2.0 was in trouble, as apparently M3GAN gets an adult body and fights another AI who looks like an adult human. It's all about upgrades. M3GAN becomes the good guy because of course we do. Yay, another villain turned on their head and now they're a hero. Yay. I mean, I'm sorry. You don't have to do that in horror. You've never had to do that in horror. Jason Voorhees never became the hero. Freddy Krueger never became the hero. The Leprechaun never became the hero, right? And those franchises went on for decades, right? The Alien, and Aliens, and Alien, and all the rest of the Alien franchise stuff never became the good guy. Like, why this? I mean, Hollywood has been stuck in this trope of doing this for so long, and it's overplayed, and it's overdone, and nobody cares anymore. You're not subverting expectations at all anymore, because basically at this point, it's become par for the course. So everybody who sees it rolls their eyes and goes, nope, I already know where this story is going. I'm done. That's why we talk about red flags when it comes to trailers and when these directors and these creators and these actors and actresses talk about these things, right? That's literally what happens every single time, because the audience, the culture has evolved. We can see these red flags from a mile away. And clearly, based on these opening weekend numbers, a lot of the M3GAN fan base out there saw those exact same red flags and went, nope, not going to do it. So not only did M3GAN become the good guy, she also became friends with the humans as they apparently battled the new upgraded AI, Amelia. Amelia Pond? Probably not. It looks a lot different than the original, which drew fans into the theaters. And that's one of those things where if it doesn't look like something similar that they've known and loved, they're not going to watch it. I mean, literally, how many parts of Friday the 13th did we get? Like 7, 10, arguably, with all the rest of the versions that came out later? You know what I mean? And guess what? The formula really didn't change. It was Jason running around, slaughtering a bunch of teenagers who decided to get freaky. Like, it's literally the same thing every single time. And guess what? It went on for decades. Whereas M3GAN is now clearly going to be over. So check this out. The first M3GAN had Thursday previews of 2.7 million. That's without anyone having watched the movie other than the trailers. M3GAN 2.0, 1.5 million. Literally almost half of what the first movie has done, which means you've lost half your audience based on just the trailers. Just the trailers. So that tells me fans hated what they saw in the trailer. Let's also add that M3GAN is super popular at the Universal Horror Nights events and has become a TikTok sensation, yet fans aren't showing up again. Again, huge misfire. And I mean, if you saw the first M3GAN, or if you even saw the trailers, like that creepy little spider way that she was moving and being all freaky and stuff like that, I mean, that's what sold that movie to so many horror fans out there. Now, all of that is completely absent. You want to know why it's so popular at Universal Horror Nights? Because they have, acrobats, or they're not acrobats, but the people that can bend themselves in all kinds of funny ways and stuff like that. Like, they have those kind of people out there actually reenacting that exact same kind of thing out there. Like, all those flexible people. They're doing that kind of stuff, and it's creeping out and terrifying the audiences. Because imagine something that looks human, but is chasing after you walking like a spider. That is going to absolutely terrify people. As a result, it's been a huge misfire. Thursday previews tanking. Opening weekend box office estimates for M3GAN 2.0 are now only 20 million at best. And that brings us to the numbers. Because as you see, the estimates, M3GAN has now come in at those with the official reporting from the numbers has now come in $3 million under the revised estimates for a grand total of $17 million globally. That is a disastrous dumpster fire. Even at a reported $30 million budget, you cannot recover from this and make a profit. What's the rule of thumb? 2.5 times, more than likely 3, but we like to be generous around here, right? We like to bestow a little bit of the grace that our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ bestowed upon us to the rest of these people, whether they deserve it or not. And at the end of the day, because that's what we're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, so we'll be generous, 2.5 times, right? On an estimated budget of $30 million, you're talking $60, $75 million is what this thing globally has to make for them to even argue a profit. $17 million opening worldwide box office, that is not going to happen, even with a best 50% weekend drop over weekend. That's not going to happen. It's going to end up lower than this. That is going to be a disaster. This movie's just, whether you liked it or not, doesn't matter. It's a disastrous dumpster fire, and it's going to lose money at the box office. But they went over the Saturday updates, and yeah, Sunday update, $10.2 million. It is bad. So what happened? I've seen this before. It's my guess that with the success of the first movie, the creators got more money. Budget reported to be $25 million. Okay, so $25 million, 2.5 times, right? Still pretty close to the exact same thing. You're talking $60 to $70 million. Not that far off. Still not going to make a profit. And instead of sticking with what worked, decided to go bigger, quote unquote, which again is a misfiring with the fans. I mean, it's not like, yeah, eventually we did like Jason Goes to Hell and like Jason in Space and like Jason X and Alien, and well, Alien was already in space, but Alien in the future and all that kind of, well, Alien was kind of, anyway, you get my point, right? The formula didn't change, right? You didn't need to do anything different. It was still the same horror franchise going over and over again. But instead, you decided to reinvent the wheel. How'd that work out for you? They don't want to see a good guy M3GAN and all the upgraded tech. Obviously, we're sick and tired of the trope of villains becoming heroes. It's just way overdone and way overplayed at this point. This also seems to be reflected in the Rotten Tomatoes score from critics, which currently is at a 58% compared to the film's 93% rating. The audience score isn't yet available. But Matt, it is now. Based on when he wrote it, it is now. And the audience score isn't bad, right? But as he points out at the time of this writing, there wasn't 500 people, which is the Rotten Tomatoes minimum in order to give something a score now is 500 audience reviews. Sometimes they push that number up a little higher, but that's a story for a different video. But audiences, the critics hate this. They loved the first one, and they hate it. Now, the audience isn't doing too bad for it, right? All audience scores obviously a little bit lower. That's the 79%. That's really probably more the true score. But the problem is, whether or not the people that actually saw it liked it, that doesn't matter. Because there wasn't enough of them to show up and actually go see the movie. And this is what happens when these guys try to reinvent the wheel, when they try to change what everybody loved about a franchise, right? Whether it be Star Wars, trying to make it more female-centric, or whether it be Marvel doing the exact same thing, or like the Exorcist disastrous dumpster fire that they had not too long ago, or making it all wham and power nonsense and talking down to you about agenda-driven stuff, or M3GAN, where they went from what was a successful horror movie to now a sci-fi trope where the bad guy becomes a villain, which is a trope we've all seen too many times and done, well, much better in other things. And now it's become passé. Nobody cares anymore because everybody in Hollywood continues to do it. And guess what? It's not going to work. You can't turn M3GAN into a hero. You can't turn a proper horror villain that everybody loved because of how villainous they were, how creepy they were, the way their on-screen presence, right? You lose all of that when you try to turn them into friends with the humans and no longer the bad guy. Like, that doesn't work. It simply doesn't. That's not what people showed up to the first M3GAN for. They showed up to be scared and creeped out by this absolutely disturbing robot that was weird and it was creepy. And sadly, M3GAN 2.0 gave the fans and the audiences none of that. And now the audiences have spoken because at the end of the day, the fans decide what succeeds and what fails. And clearly, the fans took one look at the trailer of M3GAN 2.0 and went, yeah, no, I think I'll wait for streaming. Because at the end of the day, no matter how you like to split it, M3GAN 2.0 is a disastrous dumpster fire at the box office and absolutely will lose money and probably end the franchise as well. Rest in peace, M3GAN 2.0.